Hi, I'm Bethany Rogers, and I'm here for a special edition of Orlando Sentinel's Politics Now. Today we're going to be hearing from candidates for Ocoee City Commission, and I'm joined here by Richard Firstner and Marc Price. And also running for City Commission is Ronney Oliveira, and he could not be with us today. But first we wanted to start out by hearing a little bit about our candidates that we have here. So Richard, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Richard Firstner, and I'm running as the candidate for District 3 of the City of Ocoee Commissioner. The City of Ocoee is an exciting place to be right now. It's positioned to move into the future with the plans for development and growth that are on the drawing board. Economically, the city is in great shape with $10.5 million in reserve, so it's in a position to move forward. What the city needs in order to do that is experience and leadership to help guide it into the future. I have experience. I have over 35 years of experience in the field of public safety, the last 14 years of which I spent as the fire chief for the City of Ocoee. I've developed and managed multi-million-dollar budgets and provided an excellent class of service to the residents of Ocoee and used their tax dollars wisely. I'm familiar with the comprehensive plan. I'm familiar with the land code, land development code, and all forms of operations that the city takes place in. That's why I feel like I'm the right candidate for the job to lend my experience and leadership to the city.
Marc?
Thank you. My name is Marc Price. I've been a resident of Ocoee for about 14 years. I have a wife of, I guess, be 25 years this fall. We've enjoyed living in Ocoee, call it home. All the businesses that I'm involved in also derive from the city of Ocoee. A little bit about my background. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a best-selling author of business books. Currently, my business partners and I are in the process of writing a 12-book series for an international publisher that is published and distributed worldwide in 8 different languages, all centered around small business and entrepreneurship. We have either owned outright, invested in, or have partial ownership in 17 businesses around the country, from retail to hospitality to even the .com initiative, some brick and mortar. So our experience in the small business world is somewhat vast. I, like Mr. Firstner, love Ocoee. I think it's a great place to live. I also, too, believe it's a good time to live in Ocoee. I think that we're on the precipice of really doing some great things in a town that wants to be great. So I'm looking forward to throwing my hat in the ring with some of my expertise and some of my business acumen, and I think I'd be an asset to the city.
Okay, yeah. All right. Marc, first question I'll have you take first. What's your strategy for encouraging economic growth in the city?
I think that's it's kind of a loaded question, but I do believe that in the past, I think that small businesses, businesses really of any size, had a difficult time dealing with our city. Richard and I spoke on that at our forum in Ocoee not too long ago. And I think that one of the issues there is maybe the path to getting a business open. So what I want to be able to do is kind of make that path a little more defined, a little clearer. And I'd also like to create a situation where whoever the commissioner is, whoever is sitting on the current board, would be more of an out front ambassador to go out and not only try to receive quality businesses in our city, but go out and find them and do a great job of selling what we believe is a great city to sell.
How about you?
I think the key to development in Ocoee is pushing the plans that are in place now. There are plans to develop the 429 corridor, the downtown area, and the CRA along State Road 50. These plans are excellent. They have what the city needs: upscale, very conducive to pedestrian traffic, and also another factor is that the city is hiring a professional economic development professional this year. And his job will be to go out and search for and recruit businesses for the city. All we have to do is be a little careful on the planning end of it and use some intelligence and invite the businesses in that we would like to see there, and not just open it up to anyone that wants to put a business in, regardless of what that is.
Okay. The city of Ocoee has higher property tax rates than many other municipalities in Orange County. What, if any, plans do you have to hold the line on taxes or provide tax relief for citizens?
The taxes are higher, not substantially, and the reason for that is the lack of economic growth, business growth in the city. That's the key to bringing down the ad valorem taxes for the residents. If we develop a good business center, a good economic center in the city, that will produce the tax revenues that will offset the ad valorem property taxes, and in turn will lower those taxes for the residents.
Yeah, well said. I mean, we're in agreement here. I think going back to what we had originally said, I think that for the most part, at times it was tough to do business with the city, and now I think it is time that the city has much to offer in return, and I think that creating a clear path to getting those businesses in not only excites the community, it keeps property values high, it keeps people wanting to move in, it keeps the economic engine moving, and certainly the tax base would be affected accordingly to most people's favor. So yeah, I'm in agreement with that, and I think as long as we have that plan and we can execute it properly, I think those things will take care of themselves. That is a big hot button with residents, no doubt.
Do you think Ocoee does a good job of disseminating information about the city, and what would you do to further engage citizens in city government?
And we talked about this at the forum as well, and I've had lots of discussions with multiple families and business owners in town. I think we do an adequate job. That's probably the best way. We do have a website, we do have a Facebook page, we do have things in place that people can access. But a lot of people don't know those things exist. A lot of times the messaging that is portrayed and extended from those sources maybe don't do the best of jobs in reaching a new demographic. If you look at the age groups and the demographics that the Ocoee area is made up of, I think our average age is somewhere around 30-something years old. Those people may not necessarily respond to some of the maybe older, antiquated ways that we're communicating with people. And I think that really and truly we have everything in place. I just think we need to do a better job of executing it, more so than we are now. I think we just need to ask how people want to receive that information, to be quite honest with you. Pretty simple.
I agree. We need to find new ways of doing it. The ways that are out there now reach some, they may not reach many. I think the key is to find a method of communicating with them that's going to generate their interest to communicate back. They can see everything that's placed out there by the city, but if they don't respond and let the city know how they're receiving this, if they agree with it, their feedback on different issues, it's very hard to gauge how effective that communication is. I think the commissioners should step up their effort in communicating face-to-face with a lot of residents in their districts. I've found that to be effective. I've learned so much from the residents in my districts just going around campaigning, knocking on doors and talking to them. I found out things that I didn't realize that was their perception. So I think that if that's pursued more feedback will be given, and it'll be more effective for the city to operate that way.
Okay. Do you think the city should continue its red light camera program as is? If so, why? If not, what changes would you make?
It needs to be evaluated. I know it's a revenue producing entity for the city. That's not my major concern, is the amount of revenue that the red light cameras are producing. My main concern is how effective is this in preventing accidents? That's kind of hard to determine. As a fire chief, I would put initiatives out there, and to gauge that on effectiveness by houses that don't catch on fire, it's kind of just, a guess. And I think the red light cameras are the same way. They're there to prevent accidents, to make the city streets safer for pedestrian and vehicle traffic. So it has its good points, it has its bad points. Just as a revenue producing entity, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an interesting, topic. We talk about this at coffee many times, and I think that I think a lot of people didn't know a lot about it to start with. I'm not interested in the revenue portion of it as well. I'm not so sure that it saves any lives. I don't think it necessarily slows people down. I think there's a portion of our population, especially those who don't even live here, who travel, very heavily traveled, 50 for example, are not even aware that the cameras are in use or in place. So people come rolling through there, they get lit up with a ticket, some other outside company makes a lot of money, distributes part of that money back to the city. I'm not so sure if that curtails any type of activity or creates a safety measure there. But what it does create is a lot of controversy. A lot of people are not for it. So I would say, no, I'm not in favor of it in any way right now. Not interested in that. But I do think that with maybe some tweaks and some investigation on how other cities are doing it, it might be worthy taking a look at in the future. But for me, that's not a high priority item.
All right, one final question. What do you think about establishing term limits for city officials?
You know, we talked about this at the forum again, and it raised, you know, some excitement from other candidates who've been in office for multiple decades. And a guy like me who's a complete outsider who've never been in, I think that it's very difficult, almost impossible to get into that, you know, almost like a club. It's very hard. If someone's been in office for years and years, even decades, the relationships that they can establish, the inside information that they have, the flow of information that goes in and out of that person's office or their particular title is not conducive for a person that's trying to get in. And this is one of the reasons why I believe we don't do a good job of communicating with people. And the reason is because if you have the same people doing the same thing over and over again, and you have no real new voices, the same people are voting, the same people are listening, the same people are responding, and the same people continue to show up every single time at these commission meetings. And there's a very large sect of our society there in Ocoee that do not participate, I'm convinced, because we don't have enough rotation in that system. So in my opinion, I'm not necessarily for anybody to extend out beyond a couple of terms. That's just my opinion.
What do you think?
The term for all the elected officials in the city is 3 years. Some elected officials start projects and they take longer than that. So they would like to see them through to completion. It all comes down to whether or not they're reelected. It's the democratic process. If the public does not feel they're doing a good job or they feel that they need someone else in there, then it's their duty to vote them out and put somebody else in. Term limits necessarily, I don't think it's a good thing. If a person is in there doing a good job, I would hate to see their career cut short as a political figure in the city government that's really producing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, now we're going to have some words in closing. Mark, you go first.
Great. I've never really worked for the city. I've never taken a paycheck from the city. I don't have any connections to the city in any way. I'm an outsider, so to speak. I'm a regular citizen. I believe that some of my business acumen, some of the expertise that I have in financial literacy, in organizational management, organizational leadership, I think can be an asset to our city. I think it's difficult sometimes to have your voice heard because we've had some of the same people in there, and it is difficult to get in. And so that's why I speak highly of term limits and some of these other things. I would like to think that by bringing in a fresh face, a new perspective, some modern ideas, bringing in a new crowd, a new group of people as Ocoee gets younger and we need to expand our interest base, I think that having some new people in there is the way to go. And so I'm excited about an opportunity. I respect my opponent greatly. Mr. Firstner's a great person, and I feel very honored to know him. And I know that whoever's elected will do a great job. The cool thing is that we both care about the city and the future in which it resides. Thank you.
The city of Ocoee is positioned to move into the future right now, economically and mentally. Before, that was left up to certain people to decide whether that was going to happen or not. The city needs leadership right now based on experience to know how to go about creating intelligent development, good growth that's going to support the city and reflect the uniqueness of the city. I think I have that experience to share with the public, and I'm ready to take that step and continue to provide leadership to the city that I've provided in the past and bring Ocoee into the future and accomplish some of these great plans that are there ready to do. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you both so much, and thank you for joining us. For more information about the elections, visit orlandosentinel.com.